Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to Solo Rip number 6 here on the weekends, where we have a little bit more time to be able to delve into this information and be able to talk about it in a deeper, more concentrated fashion. I appreciate all the response I've been getting for the Solo Rip. I love doing these, and I plan to do more along with the main chain, which is the interview episodes. So on Solo Rip number 6, before we get into it, we're going to talk about signing devices. What is that? Is that a private key? How does that work? We're going to talk about Elon buying Twitter and some things that can happen with Elon now owning Twitter, and when it comes to getting rid of bots and when it comes to getting rid of spam. We're going to talk about Fidelity and how Bitcoin continues this trend to just dominance on everything. And we're going to talk about BIP 119. I know you guys are probably exhausted about BIP 119. I won't exhaust you any further because I'm not the most technical person when it comes to BIP 119, but I've absorbed a ton of information, as you guys as well, and that's what we're going to talk about in the Solo Rip. I'm going to cue the intro now, and we'll be right back after the intro.
I also made the case for owning Bitcoin, the quintessence of scarcity premium. It's literally the only large tradable asset in the world that has a known fixed maximum supply. By its design, the total quantity of Bitcoins cannot exceed 21 million.
Bitcoin is the hardest money that has ever been invented.
If you don't have my private key, you cannot spend my Bitcoin, period. And this is the power of Bitcoin.
It's the first time we figured out how to create true property that you can take possession of with full custodial rights.
Back at it here. Welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits, where we walk you through Bitcoin bit by bit so we can provide you with the information you need to succeed and persist. Like I said a little in the beginning of the episode, back with Solo Rip number 6, we don't have a Mind Your Block segment today. We have a few people that I have to schedule that have reached out, so look out for those. But this is just a friendly reminder. Donate to the devs, donate to the show, get 10 minutes to mind your block here on the show. Check out last week's Solo Rip where G, our very first volunteer to be able to donate. And I'll be posting up those donations to OpenSats in the near future. Follow us on talkinginbits.com on Twitter. Sorry, not .com, but Talking in Bits on Twitter. My personal is DeFBeD, DeFBeD. You can find this on like IG and those other places, but I honestly don't handle those. So all the signal is going to be on those Twitter accounts. But a reminder, support the devs that make all this happen. Support the show for all this great content. And it's a win-win. You get to come on and mind your block. So let's get started here. NVK and CoinKite did one of these things where they usually always do, where they take a domain name and they actually like reference something with it. And this situation is calling hardware wallets, which is what we all know as, you know, our keys and how we secure our Bitcoin. Remember, friendly reminder, get all your coin off of the exchanges. If you don't, get ready for the blunt trauma that's coming your way. I know that sounds very deep and rough, but this is exactly the truth. The history of Bitcoin, if you look far enough, you've seen examples of this happening. I saw just one today of an individual basically paying off their collateral with BlockFi. You guys know I'm not a fan of BlockFi, and basically getting the weight game, right? That whole like, hey, we're verifying that this is actually you, AKA we don't actually have this Bitcoin, and now you're gonna wait till we can find it and allocate it to be able to give it back to you. So hardware wallets is what we know. Cold Card, my personal favorite. There's Passport, there's Trezor, there's Ledger. There's a lot of them popping up here and there, but I heard this talk late last year, but it finally came to fruition here with MVK's posting. But trying to go forward and call these devices signing devices, because if you really think about it, your private keys are agnostic to the device, meaning that once this code card or once this device actually generates these private keys for you, you can actually grab your seed phrase and bounce around from device to device. You can have it on multiple devices. So in order to call this thing a hardware wallet or a private key, kind of makes it, in my opinion at least, sound very specific to the device. Private key is here. But after the private keys are generated and after you get your seed phrases, the only use for these devices, honestly, is just to be able to sign for transactions. So whether it's a single sig setup and you're about to send some Bitcoin from your single sig to a friend of the show, or just a friend in general, or to a vault or anything like that, well, you have to sign with your private keys in order to prove to the Bitcoin network that you have ownership of this UTXO to be able to move it along forward, right? So signing device is actually very accurate on what these devices are post creating your private key and post generating entropy and getting your seed phrases. So I don't know if signing devices, in my opinion, is the final and last answer that we should actually go with here. I actually saw Jan Pritzker from Swan. Shout out to Jan. He was on episode 3 of Talking in Bits very early on, very ahead of the game when it comes to talking in bits and its value. But I saw him go back and forth in MBK, and no beef or anything, just logical explanation, and explaining that a signing device doesn't really portray ownership, and I might be butchering this, but doesn't really portray ownership to the owner of the device like keys do. When somebody thinks about keys, they think about unlocking, a garage door or unlocking their front door and being able to get to their valuable stuff, right? Unlocking a safe, they need a key. So his argument is that although signing devices, and sorry, Jan, if I'm butchering this or paraphrasing this in the wrong way, but what I got from it is if your device is, if you know your device has a private key, you understand it as it being the unlocking mechanism to your treasure, to your Bitcoin, to anything that's valuable, to the possessions inside your house, to the car inside your garage. Now, when you say signing devices, that kind of takes the emphasis away, and it's not really accurate on, hey, this is used to unlock or sign a transaction, right? Because unlock that transaction, that UTXO, and be able to go it forward. I'm kind of sitting in the middle here. I understood exactly what Jan was saying. And I understand that Jan was actually talking more about like the normies, like people that are not as advanced in Bitcoin or people that are early in the journey. And I do agree with him in the sense that, for the normies, if we're trying to onboard the next, million people, if we're trying to do these things, then yeah, he's right. Keys are probably a better option than hardware wallets, and keys are probably a better option than a signing device. But just to be, on the other side of the fence here, because I am on the middle here, that could actually be a trend of this episode, because when we talk about BIP 119 later on, I'm kind of in the fence about that too. I kind of like signing device because it's actually accurate for what it does. And when a normie advances their education and when a normie advances their logic to the level of, understanding that you're signing to unlock that UTXO with your private key, then a signing device is extremely accurate and actually puts me in the reference of, my private key is agnostic to device. My seed phrase is the key. My seed phrase is the thing that I should be protecting that unlocks my valuables. But when it comes to the actual hardware wallet, it's a signing device, right? And we talked about in the previous episode with in previous episodes when we were talking about CoinKite and they're having their tap card and the MK4 being an NFC enabled device where you can tap. In that situation, it is a signing device, because if I walk up to a terminal and I use my MK4 to basically tap onto that terminal, what I'm telling my MK4 is, hey, my balance, my UTXOs that I have here, I'm signing permission for you to be able to conduct the transaction with that terminal and be able to approve my UTXO, my Bitcoin, to be able to be sent over. So a lot of this has to do with, normies and what they understand, but a lot of this stuff, in my opinion, with MVK and CoinKite pushing that as a signing device is, their newer products, whether it's the signer card, the tap card, I forgot the actual name of it, or the MK4, or any of these other devices that have NFC. I think in that situation is actually more accurate to start the verbiage, start the trend, start the language of being able to sign with this device transactions that I'm about to commit or that I'm about to approve is the better term there. And I like signing device. I'm still, when I say I'm on the fence, I'm open to hearing more of like Jan's opinions of like why signing devices is the way, but I'm not mad at signing device. I think it's actually very accurate. And I think, even the normies would have to catch up to the language. And when the normies, in the next few years actually start to tap their hardware wallets, it's going to be less about cold storage. Not that that doesn't exist. It's just, there's a difference, cold storage, but it's going to start to separate the language between this device can only be a cold storage device. And hey, this device can actually be flexible, meaning that I can have a seed phrase or one device that is cold storage, but I can also have a signing device that I'm going to be walking around with and tapping, terminals, NFC wise, or with the card, etc. So signing device is a new term. I've heard this late last year, so I don't think it's new. I just think it's one of those that nobody actually committed to calling it that. But I'm with this. I think MBK got something here. I think CoinKite always got something cool going on here. And I'm willing to listen to you, the listener, or just read any type of arguments, especially from high-level Bitcoiners like Jan and MBK on, where this kind of lies. But if you want to transition away from a hardware wallet just being something you hide everywhere and, you keep because of cold storage and you try to keep in a safe or in a, whatever it is that you keep it, I think this is the right trend to be able to start now normalizing everyday use of your device and being able to tap and being able to sign these transactions out. Let me know what you think. Super interested what you think. It's a super interesting debate as it is, but that's where I stand on with signing devices. So go check that argument out on Bitcoin Twitter. It's not an argument. It's more of a friendly debate. And then, come back to me, respond to me at Talking in Bits or at DeFBeD and let me know what you think. I'm always interested in what you guys think as the listener. Before I go into Elon buying Twitter, BIP 119. If you haven't seen it on your feed, I'm very surprised. And this is one of those like inner Bitcoin politics or discussions that has big implications on Bitcoin in itself. But also some people just take things way too far when they try to explain things. So last Friday, as of this recording, I was actually out in Austin and I was actually able to watch Jeremy Rubin, his presentation, his workshop on CVT, which is BIP 119. I'm not a developer, but I believe that's check template verify. So CTV. And basically, in a nutshell, TLDR, if I'm not mistaken here, what this is going to allow to do is allow you to have smart contracts on Bitcoin. That's an Ethereum thing. Yuck, yuck, yuck. I know we don't like to use that word here. But the argument is, and I'm kind of with this argument is, there isn't a world, or there shouldn't be a world, and I think a lot of the things that we're starting to see with Taro is kind of leaning in that direction, is there isn't a world, I don't think, where we can't look at the competition, scope out what the competition is doing that's kind of well and that's kind of good, and try to make it better here on Bitcoin and using Bitcoin as its foundational layer. I can hear the people killing me right now. I get it. I'm not the biggest, person in here, but I saw a use case scenario where, in my opinion, like in a vault, for example, and boy, I could hear everybody tearing me down here. But on a vault, for example, let's say I put 10 Bitcoin into a vault, right? Like one main vault, right? And I know that vault is secure. Over time, though, I want to make sure that my children have their own wallets and actually get like a drip of this Bitcoin that moves from this vault. And that's pre-designed from the moment that I make this vault, right? So a smart contract. So in that example, currently, yeah, I could have a vault and then I could set up other multi-signature vaults or whatever. And then I could manually just move, that Bitcoin over to my children's vault in this example. So manually, after 6 months, I can say 1 Bitcoin goes to this vault, sign. 1 Bitcoin goes to this vault, sign. 1 Bitcoin goes to this vault, sign. Yeah, I got multiple kids. And that's fine and dandy. That doesn't mess with Bitcoin's fungibility. That doesn't do anything that we're not used to. It's a very thoughtful action, meaning that you have to commit to do that and you have to sign to do that. But, I also like if it's safe enough. See, I don't know enough about the safety. I don't know enough about the risk factor. I'll be perfectly transparent here, which is why I'm not going to dig into this very long. I just wanted to bring it up because it is an interesting topic, and it is one that I've seen way right, way left, not in the political sense. I don't like that stuff, but in like a legit, like this guy's over here saying this thing, this guy's way on the other side of the fence saying this thing. And a lot of reputable Bitcoiners, OG Bitcoiners, Jimmy Song, a bunch of them are basically against the fast activation for this protocol. I don't think they're really against it completely. Just the fact that, Jeremy's insisting that this thing get like a fast, signaling from the network to basically activate this. I'm kind of against that too, by the way. I think a lot of things like Taproot, for example, took about 3 years or so. I think these things need to take a lot of time. So in that sense, I agree with the people against BIP 119. But back to the example, What if I just have to fund that one wallet and I know because of the contract that was created that this is just going to drip down to my kid's wallet and all I ever have to worry about is continuously funding that main wallet? That's a really cool setup. Is there a way to do that now without doing the manual signing and all that? I don't know, but I haven't seen one. And I think when it comes to lineage and when it comes to kids and when it comes to just like scheduled, what I would call maintenance or scheduled movement, I do definitely see a place where this can happen as long as it's safe and as long as it doesn't mess with Bitcoin's fungibility. That's the part that I don't know enough about. But while being out there and watching the workshop, while listening to like, you know, the OG Bitcoiners and seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter, you know, I see both sides of the fence and I'm kind of here in the middle about it. And I would love, you know, maybe I could get somebody on the main chain, on the main episodes like Jeremy or somebody else to come and pitch their argument. And then conversely, I would love to get somebody to pitch the opposite argument to BIP19. I don't think that we should just, because it's an Ethereum thing or because it's another shitcoin thing, immediately eliminate this, right? But I don't think that anything on the network should be something that is super rushed out there or get on it right now type deal. And that's where I'm a little bit lost on BIP 119. You know, CTV, covenants, there's many different smart contracts is kind of what it is. I actually remember back in November, I was actually out in Austin and saw like the early version of this from Jeremy as well. So this is something that he continues to polish out. I believe he has a bounty out there with a lot of other well-known Bitcoiners to try to find flaws in this and things that bugs basically. So there's due diligence being done here, but does it have to be immediately embraced? I don't think so. It's obviously that it's not being embraced. And it's a very interesting inner Bitcoin battle that's going on. I don't know if it's at the magnitude of big blocks versus little blocks, but something like that, where one side is saying, hey, this is actually very cool and useful. And another side that's basically saying, get the fuck out of here with that. That is nonsense. We don't need any of that. Very interesting stuff. Go check it out. Go, go into like the bigger Bitcoiners. I think you could probably search BIP 119, CVT, covenants, all this stuff. Jeremy Rubin has a website that goes to it, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of information out there. Go check that out. Actually got to add it here to the show notes because I didn't plan on talking about it, but I keep seeing so much about it that it was good to bring up. All right, y'all. Biggest news, I guess. I don't really play into this stuff, but Elon actually pulls the trigger and buys Twitter. 43 billion, something like that, some crazy number there that, you know, most people in the world will never get to or be able to own or possess, but fascinating nonetheless. That one person literally walked into a corporation or a company and basically said, hey, my pockets is big enough to buy you. I'm buying you, right? And there's obviously huge incentive for the board to sell. I believe Dorsey's on that board and actually got like a nice cold billion out of that. Hey, why the hell not, right? Buy Bitcoin, Dorsey. I'm sure you know that. But yeah, Elon walks in there and then immediately everybody's simping. Oh, freedom is back. Freedom is back. He's gonna, open up the forum, the free market for communication. Oh, now, the Trumps of the world can come back and Alex Jones and all that. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Y'all just don't seem to learn y'all lesson when it comes to these heroes. Y'all really don't understand that what's really gonna play out here is whatever narrative is gonna basically line up with Elon Musk's plan. If y'all actually think that freedom is now unlocked for some whatever reason or that anything is changing, you must be mistaken. You must have forgotten the troll that basically pumped a Doge and continue to do all this bullshit and shit on Bitcoin as much as we can, especially when it comes to mining. Y'all must be bugging. And it doesn't mean that Elon can't learn, right? Or like adapt because, we know Saylor has a history of dumping and shitting on Bitcoin and now Giga Chad is I guess with. I'm not with any of that, man. I slay my heroes. Matter of fact, I don't even put the heroes on the pedestal. So this is not anything different for me. Or the rule is going to be a little bit lenient. Maybe. Like, right? Is it going to be less censoring? Maybe. But only to the point that his incentives still align with doing that. So if Twitter starts to become a main revenue source for open platform, then sure, I could see Elon actually like saying, hey, let's keep it open because the money's coming in. But I promise you, once he figures out his incentive, whether it's hey man, this open source thing is making more people walk out than it is staying. I'm just giving examples here, but and it's not good for our bottom line or whatever. He's either gonna sell Twitter, or immediately you're gonna start getting people banned again, right? So like, I don't trust. Although I respect Elon and everything that he's done. I mean, he's everything he's landed on, he's pretty much transformed everything from all the way back to PayPal, to SpaceX, to Tesla, to everything. So I'm optimistic that he can transform Twitter, but y'all don't learn y'all lesson with these guys, man. These are a different breed of species of animals, or humans, if you want to call it that. These monkeys have supercomputers on writing their incentives to profits, writing their incentives to whatever, to paradise, or whatever it is. And I don't see this being any different. So please, you won't see no simping from me. Please don't do that, because what's going to end up happening is your heroes are going to let you down. And in Bitcoin, we don't even have heroes. And if you want to separate this conversation and say, well, Jose, this is a Twitter thing, or freedom of speech thing, not a Bitcoin thing, maybe you're right. But I'm on Twitter for one reason and one reason alone, and that's Bitcoin. So maybe y'all on there to see other news and health news and all that. That's fantastic. I'm not on there to do anything but to shitpost and to catch up on my Twitter, my Bitcoin stuff. And yeah, I think censoring is still going to continue. It's just going to have a different flavor, if that makes any sense. So another thing that, a lot of people, Jack Mahler's jumped in there, have introduced is, how do we get rid of the bots and the spam on Twitter? A lot of people think that the answer is Lightning integration. I saw a nice thread here that I'm about to pull up here from John Carvalho. Shout out to John, OG Bitcoiner. He was just on the recent episode 62 of the main thread. Go check that out. There was a lot of bombs being dropped on there, a lot of truth and value being dropped on there, and a lot of sneak peeks at what's to come in that conversation. So go check it out. But there's really good arguments here. I'm going to read this verbatim. I'm going to skim through it, of course. But, John says adding BTC costs would not work and would cause a bad custodiable, centralable behavior. I agree with this. Even then, it would only reduce the bots to their value of return, not remove them totally. Remember, right now it's easy for bots to come on and have a high return for whoever's running the bots, right? Whether it's controversy that they're trying to stir up, or whether it's actually value in dollars that they're actually getting back. That's just going to reduce their value, but it's still going to, amplify them. It's still going to make them more laser focused. Sort of the example of like, when security goes up, criminals just get much better at being criminals. They don't get worse at it. They don't get deterred. They just open up new avenues for them to get better. So I see this as kind of being that similar example. John goes on this 2 of 6 thread to say, it also required people to somehow toggle filter out accounts that did not pay, because you can never get everyone to really pay at once, right? And why? Why is that? And this is the part that really got me. Bitcoin can't actually handle adding millions of people at once. So fees would go up and people would turn to custodial solutions to handle this. Bing, 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 in my opinion. I think that's absolutely true. We try to act like, every 10 minutes that there's no repercussion for a massive influx of people coming into Bitcoin. Now we want that, in the long run, and we want to have this like trend of going up. But if that were to happen, then guess what? Blocks become much more fuller, mempool becomes backed up, fees go skyrocket, and then you letting me know that, hey, it's worth it to post on Twitter if I got to wait this long or whatever would be impossible. Lightning can do that, but remember, Lightning channels also need to be on-chain to open and on-chain to close. So you may lighten the load of the chain, but if you keep amping up that number, well, guess what? Opening channels for Lightning is also going to be heavy on the mempool, which is going to make opening those channels that much more expensive. 3 of 6, and I'm going to leave this link in the show notes for y'all. Y'all can check this out. Custodial solutions remove unique UTXO factor. They add censorship. They reduce privacy, and that's very un-Bitcoin. Another issue is that requiring payment will filter out poor people that do not have BTC, etc., and we still be left with the bots that can turn a profit. So this is also an argument in Bitcoin. We like to be, single focused and basically say like everybody has Bitcoin. Well, that's not exactly true. And if you want to go back to the argument of this being a freedom platform for anybody can say anything, well, what happens when I'm broke? What happens to my voice when I can't afford to have the voice? Easy. The same thing that's happening with censorship. I don't exist is what happens there. So, he goes on here, 5 or 6. Filtering spam from open listening peers is hard. You need more than one factor to triangulate if this is a real person or if this is a bot. So, I'm going to, the only fair and effective solution is self-moderation through webs of trust. Webs of trust is also something that John spoke about in our episode that we just released here. So definitely go check it out. This is very interesting and fascinating. Is there a solution? People much smarter than I can definitely come up with a solution. Do I want bots to be less and to be gone? Of course, we all want that, because even now we suffer with knowing who's actually legit and who's actually not. But is it as simple as just adding Lightning or Strike API to Twitter? Might be nice for Strike, might be nice for a few. Doesn't really solve the problem at scale, in my opinion, and with my limited knowledge. You guys have heard me say this on the show, and if you know me personally, it's one of my favorite lines. I don't know shit about shit. That's just a short explanation to say I'm more than open to being wrong, and somebody can respond to me and let me know what's going on. In other big news, Bitcoin continues its trend towards dominance. Not only, today Central Africa made Bitcoin legal tender, second to El Salvador. I don't know if y'all ever seen the size of Africa. I don't know if y'all even care. You should care, because when you can fit the United States, when you can fit China, when you can fit India, when you can fit all of these countries inside of one continent, that's how big it is. I saw somebody post an image earlier of like a Google map, and to get to like slightly North Africa all the way down to South Africa, it was something along the lines of like 3 days. Holy shit. Like, that's massive. So looking forward to seeing, that type of dominance that's happening there in Africa. But on, more American standards here, a lot of people have retirement plans. Most people go through Fidelity. That's just one of the older guys. Vanguard is another one that is probably going to follow suit here. But Fidelity announced that by the end of this year, they're going to allow their 401k, clients basically to be able to, put money into Bitcoin. I didn't really see the logistics on that. I'm sure they're custodial. I don't know if it's a GBTC type thing where it's exposure to Bitcoin or if it's actually Bitcoin. Nonetheless, though, Bitcoin's continuous dominance all over the world and all over industries continues with this announcement here. Fidelity, I forgot the number here, but they have huge amount of client wealth within their system, within their walls. And just them being open to do this just says a lot, man. And back to the last solo rip, when I was talking about what makes me bullish, and I was talking about how eventually this is just the way that makes sense when it comes to transacting, and people are naturally going to use the best way, fastest, safest, private, right? The best way to transact is going to be in Bitcoin. And eventually more people are going to start to see the value of that. Eventually, and this is happening every day, more people are starting to see the oppression of keeping your money in banks. So this is just another flag, another signal for me to say, this shit is happening, y'all. And if y'all listen to this podcast and you're on the fence about Bitcoin, or, you have a small net worth into Bitcoin, I really think you should ramp up your research, right? Because I don't want to be the single point of failure for you, but I really think you should ramp up and start really digging into what the benefits of Bitcoin is for you and what it can do for your family, for your wealth. And this is just another signal. If you have a job and it has Fidelity, and you have a 401k that you're stacking into, man, this is a good opportunity for you to start ramping up that exposure. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be that they're the custodial, and that's a different problem. But if you're set on retirement and you're set on 401ks and you want to get away from stonks and get away from the S&P and all that, this is a nice way. I think Vanguard is going to follow closely right behind this. Why wouldn't they? Once the competition starts saying, hey, we're going to Fidelity, Vanguard has no choice. And this is the dominance of Bitcoin as it continues. Fiat is playing catch up. Don't drop your guard. And even if you get exposure, make sure you start learning about self-custody, and make sure that, maybe even before committing to a 401k, you start getting Bitcoin into self-custody for yourself, and maybe split your pot into your retirement or 401k Bitcoin, but also your emergency sovereign fund on a cold storage of Bitcoin. And there is a world, in my opinion, where you can have both. I'm a little bit deeper in the journey, so I'm going to say 100% sovereignty, self-custody. But damn, I won't be mad at somebody who has a job for 10 to 15 years who really just wants to allocate their 401k into Bitcoin. That's sort of what IRAs are doing. That sort of trend continues. They've shown us before. This is a warning. Expose yourself to this if you're already in that, channel, that pipeline of retirement. But they have shown us before that they will take your funds away. So let's not get into this trend. And this is where I'm signing off on this episode here. Expose yourself to Bitcoin however you see fit. But let's not get in the trend of trusting them with holding our balances. This is what happened when we moved off the gold standard. They gave us a very nice and convenient platform for us to be able to hold our gold and be able to go back and get it whenever we want. And these, convertible paper is pretty much what it is, or certificates. And then what happened? They rug pulled everybody, literally the globe, not just the Americans, but the globe. They rug pulled them with this same type of thing. Let's not be ignorant of history. History, is a pattern that if it's not exact, it definitely often rhymes. And if everybody starts flooding into IRAs, into 401ks, into these, what I call fiat channels and chambers, there is an avenue, BlockFi, where they're going to pull the rug underneath you and say, this Bitcoin now belongs to us. You deal with our convertible note or whatever it is. And basically go F yourself, go fuck yourself. Get exposure as you can. This is signal when it comes to dominance and Bitcoin taking over everything. But it is a fair warning for me and a lot of other Bitcoiners that have seen similar. If you leave it with them, they can do whatever they wish. And usually that means take it away from you. And when the government catches up, I'm sure they're going to start to look at these places first in order to be able to pull that from you. All right, guys, I wanted to keep these solo rips small and concise. Thank you for giving me your time. I give you my time, so I give you my heart. I do that twice a week, and that's for a reason. That's because I feel that this is my place here. This is this education that I can give, this information that I could provide could help you, could help a loved one. So please indulge it, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we can keep this information moving. A reminder that you can come on the show and you can talk your shit. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm right. We can talk together. You can plug something that you're working on. And all you need to do to that is reach out to @TalkingInBits on Twitter, at DeFBeD, which is my personal one, DEFBED. And 10,000 sats will get that ticket in for you. 5,000 of that goes to open sats for the developers to make all this privacy censorship technology possible. And 5,000 sats stays to keeping this high quality lighting and 4K and all this content coming for you guys. Don't be a stranger. Don't be nervous. Don't be scared. If you just want to support and not be on the show, that's also an opportunity for you. But I like to give value back when value comes in. So a reminder that you can do that. You could check us out on Bitcoin TV for video. We're also on YouTube, but let's try to push, Bitcoin products and Bitcoin companies. Bitcoin TV is where we're at. Works just like YouTube. Search for us, Talking in Bits. Check us out. Indulge on there. If you're not into that and you're already on YouTube, we appreciate your support over there as well. Same thing goes for audio. Check us out on Fountain app where you can stream us sats from your own node or from Cash App or from wherever your wallets, wherever your Lightning sats are from. It's also a nice way to get introduced to Lightning with low stakes, right? You don't have to pay $50,000 to find out that Lightning is not for you. You can easily load up a wallet with 1,000 sats and you can stream us even down to a sat per second or a sat per minute is actually the accurate term. You could give us a boost as well. Show us some love there. If you don't want to try that technology out, then please support us on the legacy stuff, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, you can actually see the video as well because they have that feature. And you could, Google Play, you could check us out anywhere. We appreciate you guys as always. We're continually trying to make this show better. If there's anything you like or don't like, don't hesitate to reach out because ultimately, I do this for y'all. I appreciate y'all. That wraps up solo rip number 6, and I will catch y'all next week. Later.